Hi guys and welcome back. My name is Saurabh Mutha and I'm trying to do a very interesting session on TDS chapter. This chapter is short for about 5 to 6 marks in the exams, of course, coupled with TCS and advanced tax. If you already know TCS and advanced tax, then this is the time to do TDS. And every time you want to revise TDS, watch this video, maybe on fast mode, playback, increase the playback speed, and you could watch it and revise it even faster. In this video, I'll link my QuickBook and also my Google Drive in case you also want to revise using my QuickBook. So let's dive into this concept of TDS. I hope everyone's doing really well. And yes, this video is for May 22 as well as November 22 students both. So here we go. Without any delay, let's dive in. Guys, this chapter is called TDS. Now, let me tell you a little about what this chapter is and how you already know TDS, guys. Yes, all of us already know TDS. I'll tell you why. Because if, let's say, you buy an ice cream and the ice cream seller eats one bite of your ice cream and gives you the rest, that is exactly TDS. You feel bad, right? Yes, because it's your ice cream and you should be eating it first and you should be eating it entirely. But the government says some part of it already belongs to me. So why should I give it to you, the entire ice cream, and then you will give me the tax? Instead, let me bite into the ice cream before I give you the money. That is TDS. The best example of TDS is what I'm giving you on the screen. As you know, my entire direct tax works on the example of a surgeon, and so is this TDS chapter. As you know, the surgeon loves to go and bet, and he went to KBC, Kaun Banega Crorepati, and he won 10 lakh rupees in that episode on Kaun Banega Crorepati. So this is the surgeon. For those who are new, surgeon is the main hero in direct tax, and everything in DT, income tax, works on the example of the surgeon. So here is a surgeon. He won 10 lakh rupees on KBC. So this is KBC paying the surgeon 10 lakh rupees. But the government is here and they're watching this transaction happen, and they tell KBC, listen, you are going to pay the surgeon. The surgeon is going to earn their income, and on that income, he will pay me the tax at the end of the year. I don't want to wait for so long. So why don't you do one thing? While you're paying the surgeon, while you're making the payment, why don't you also at the same time deduct TDS and pay to me at the rate of 30%? Now, is the rates is the same? No, rates are different, but 30%, because you know, on casual income, winnings on lotteries, etc., the rate of tax is 30%. So on the 10 lakh rupees that you earn, you will be paid only 7 lakh rupees. Whereas there will be a TDS at the rate of 30%, that is 3 lakh, that is paid to the government. And while they pay the government this money, they will give your PAN number to them, to the government. So the government knows whose money we've got. So they'll give the PAN number of the surgeon, that on behalf of the surgeon, here is 3 lakh rupees. Now, let's say this transaction is happening today, that is the 2nd of April. So they will deduct it on the 2nd of April. And for the month of April, whatever tax you've deducted, you will pay by the 7th of the next month to the government. So basically similar to TCS, you pay by the 7th of the next month to the government. Now, this is a concept of TDS. I'll give you sections, etc. in some time. But first, let's get into some more details around this. Now, for the surgeon, what is his income? His income, casual income, let's say, is 10 lakhs. And let's say his other incomes are, let's say, 6 lakhs. So total income is, let's say, 16 lakhs. And let's say on 16 lakh, he lands up, I'm not doing the exact calculation, but on 16 lakh, if you do the slab rate and if you do 30% on 10 lakh, etc., let's say he turns out to pay, he has to pay 3,48,000, just a random number, guys, 3,48,000, which is basically the tax, the surcharge, if applicable. Of course, it's not going to be applicable here, or and cess, and that turns out to be 3,48,000. This is his tax liability. But out of 3,48,000, yeah, you might be asking me, why have we taken 10 lakh rupees here, guys? He only earned 7 lakhs, so why have we taken 10 lakhs? That's a wrong way of thinking. He's not earned 7 lakhs. He's earned 10 lakh rupees. 7 lakh has been received into his account, and 3 lakh has been paid to the government. So basically, his earning is 10 lakh and not 7 lakh. You always take the gross amount. And on this 3,48,000, the government already has TDS of 3 lakhs. So what you will land up paying, or what the surgeon will land up paying, is only 48,000. That means, guys, of this TDS, can you take credit? Yes, you can take credit of the TDS. So TDS is nothing but your tax only, but it is taken in advance. It is taken while you earn. So while you earn, you have TDS, which is deducted and which is paid to the government, just like this. Now, what you saw on the screen is one of the first sections of TDS, which is called section 194BB, sorry, 194B. that is bets. So any lottery, any puzzles, crossword puzzles, any casual income that you earn, that is the shortcut is bets. 194B, that is bets. On this, the TDS rate will be 30% only if the amount that you are receiving is greater than 10,000. So what if you go in KBC and you just shake hands with with Amitabh Bachchan and you get out with only 5,000 rupees earning? Then that 5,000 rupees will be taxed. Don't get me wrong. Everything will be taxed, but there'll be no TDS, because TDS is only if the amount is greater than 10,000, and if the amount is greater than 10,000, on that entire amount there will be TDS at the rate of 30%, which will be paid to the government under your PAN number. So when will it be paid? It will be on payment basis. That means whenever KBC pays you, let's say today, 2nd of April, they pay you. So then from 2nd of April, this month's TDS, they will have to pay to the government by the 7th of the next month. This section is called section 194B bets. Guys, we'll look at more sections, but we're starting off, we're warming ourselves with this section called 194B. 194B is bets. I'll also show you the quick book, and I also show you a book for Pinnacle students. I'll refer to the Pinnacle notes for you to help you revise this section 194B. But very similar to 194B is another section where instead of KBC, if I put horse betting, if the same surgeon, but instead of going to KBC, now he goes and bets on horses. On Sunday, he goes to Mahalakshmi Racecourse and he bets on horses. Then in that case also, let's say he won 10 lakh rupees, congratulate him. The TDS will be at the rate of 30% because the nature is again casual income. So again, guys, here the section changes to 194BB, that is bigger bet. The shortcut is bigger bet. Bigger bet is basically when you're horse racing, that's a bigger bet. Again, here also the TDS rate is 30%. And here also it is if the amount is more than 10,000 rupees. So if it's up to 10,000 or less than 10,000, no TDS, it will be taxable, but you will have to pay the tax according to whenever you file your return. But otherwise, this will be, if it's more than 10,000 rupees, there will be TDS at the rate of 30%. And this again will be on payment basis. So that's your warm up, guys. Everyone's happy. The government is happy because they've got the tax. They don't have to wait for you. You are happy because you don't have to worry about paying the tax with interest or advance tax, etc., because you already paid the tax to the government. And this person in the middle, he's become like an agent of the government, free agent, guys, because he doesn't get any money to do this, but he will deduct it and he will pay it. It's his responsibility to ensure that money is deducted and paid to the government under section 194B and 194BB. What I will now do is I will quickly just show you the quick book on this. Just one second. Here is the quick book. Here is section 194B. B is bets. It applies to everyone when payment is made to anyone. TDS at the rate of 30% if the casual income is about 10,000 per payment. TDS is on payment basis. Guys, instead of KBC giving you money, if they give you a car worth 10 lakh rupees, then and what happens in that case? Is there no TDS? No, they will give you the car, but they will not deduct the tires. They will give you the full car, but the value of the car, 30% of that you will have to pay them and they will pay to the government. So if any amount is paid in kind, then the payer, that is KBC, has to ensure that TDS payment is given before releasing the winnings. And 194BB, I'm just going to tick mark these two. These are done. 194BB is bigger bets, is basically TDS 30% if income is more than 10,000 on horse betting. Again, TDS is on payment basis. Perfect. I hope this is understood, guys. This is the first section. I'm just going to write the sections here. The first one that we did was 194B. And the second section that we're doing is 194BB. Both are basically on betting. And understand the intention, guys. This is almost like the ice cream seller taking a bite of your ice cream and giving you the rest. Because the government deserves the tax, they say we'll take it. When you're earning only, we'll take it. That is called tax deducted at source. Now, guys, we are entering into the next one. I'm just going to clear all my drawings here. And I'm going to show you the next one. The entire TDS chapter works from an example of a calorie cafe, which is started by the surgeon. You know how doctors are very finicky about health. So the surgeon started a cafe and he is calling this cafe Calorie Cafe. It's a very healthy food cafe. And if you ever want healthy food, you could go to Calorie Cafe. Of course, it started by the surgeon, and it did so well that as of today, it has 192 employees. Yes, you heard it right, guys. Across India, they have many branches, including in Mumbai, including South of India, North of India, everywhere he's branched out, and he has 192 employees. Now, whenever he pays salary to the employees, obviously you have to pay salary every month to the employees. Whenever he makes the payment, the government is watching him. So the government says, listen, when you're paying a payment to salary, it is the employee's income. They will pay tax at the end of the year, and I don't want to wait so much. So why don't, while you're paying salaries to them, why don't you deduct some TDS, and why don't you pay it to me? So this is basically TDS on salaries. So while you're paying salaries, why don't you deduct some TDS? And this section, guys, is section 192, because 192 employees. All right. So Calorie Cafe says, okay, I can do that, but how do I do it? Because different people have different salaries. Example, let's take the watchman of Calorie Cafe. Let's take the watchman's salary. Let's say the watchman's salary is 10,000 rupees per month into 12, which is 1,20,000. And if you know income from salaries chapter, SAP minus SEP, this is SAP. And if you minus the standard deduction of 50,000 rupees, the watchman's salary in the whole year is only, net taxable salary is only 70,000. And let's say the watchman does not have any other income. So on this 70,000, the watchman will not land up paying any tax, zero tax. And if there is no tax, how can I deduct anything? So in case of a watchman, what will be the TDS? The TDS will be zero, because the watchman does not have to pay any salary. This is one example. Let's take another example of another employee at Calorie Cafe, the chef, who's the highest paid employee at Calorie Cafe. And let's say the chef's salary is 1 lakh rupees a month. Into 12 is, let's say, 12 lakh rupees. Next, he can minus 50,000 rupees standard deduction. So that becomes 11 lakh 50,000 rupees. Let's say the chef has other incomes, so he will tell you what other incomes he has. If he knows the incomes, he will tell you, because you almost become like a CA. This is the calculation done by Calorie Cafe for the chef. The chef will say, I have other incomes, I have maybe some rental income, I have interest income, etc. If he does not tell you, you will take only this income. He can also tell you the house property loss. Remember, guys, if you have a self-occupied house property, can it lead to a loss? Yes. If there is any house property loss, you can tell him, he can tell you. But if he does not, no problem, no other loss, guys, only house property loss. But let's say he does not have any house property loss. Then let's say if he's making some investments, like if he's contributing to PPF or to medical insurance, he can tell you that also. So let's say he tells you that I'm going to be contributing 1 lakh 50 to Provident Fund. So you minus 1 lakh 50 under section 80C, and that results in a income of 10 lakhs, which is taxable. Now on 10 lakh, you know, guys, the first 2.5 lakh zero, then 12,500, and then 1 lakh. So his taxable, tax payable basic tax is 1,12,500. On that, if we do cess, there's no surcharge, so it becomes 1,17,000. So I'm straight away writing 1,17,000. That is the tax payable, 1,17,000, and that is the tax payable by the chef. So now what Calorie Cafe will do, they know that this is the tax to be paid by the chef throughout the year. So they will divide it by 12, and 9,750, this is the amount they will deduct every month from his salary and will pay to the government. So if he has a salary of 1 lakh rupees, they will minus this 9,750. They will pay 90,250 to the employee or to the chef, and they will pay 9,750 to the government with his PAN number. Employee's PAN number, they will write his PAN number and they will give it. This is TDS under section 192. All right, so at what rate do we deduct it? TDS, here it is called at average rates. The rates are called average rates. Average rates means the employer will become like a CA, will do all the calculations, will take other incomes, will take investments. Loss also they can take, but only loss from house property. And that's how they will calculate the TDS at average rates. For the watchman, the average rate was 0. And for chef, it was 9,750 per month. And whenever they pay the salary, that time, let's say today, 2nd of April, then on this April month, the next month, that is 7th of May, they will pay this 9,750 to the government. along with his PAN number. But guys, here there could be a very grave offense. As an employer, you are supposed to know the PAN number of the employee. But if the employee does not give you his PAN number, then if no PAN, this is a very grave offense. If no PAN, the government gets very angry, because how will the government know whose money it is? It's honestly like you writing your exam paper without writing your roll number. It's a big offense, or it's a big mistake. So if you give no PAN, then they will tax you at a maximum marginal rate. Now, what is maximum marginal rate? It's very simple, I'll tell you. But right now, remember, if no PAN is deducted, it will not be based on average rate. It will be based on maximum marginal rates. Guys, we also have a new option called 115 BAC. If you remember, better available choice. In this 115 BAC, your income will be calculated the same way, but you will not get a lot of deductions. You will not get a lot of benefits under different heads of income. So hence, if you want this 115 BAC, but it has better rates and better slabs, then you can tell the employer previously in advance, and he will deduct the rates based on 115 BAC. All right. Now let's go to MMR. What is MMR? Maximum marginal rate. Guys, let me write it here. Maximum marginal rate means the highest rate that can be applied to an individual. So the highest rate is actually 30% of basic tax plus 37% of surcharge on the tax and plus 4% of tax on surcharge plus tax. So basically, if you calculate this, 30% and 37% of 30, that is 11.1. So 30 plus 11.1 and 41.1 into 4%, which is basically 1.644. If you add this, that gives you 42.744%. So this is your MMR. I repeat, what is MMR? MMR is the highest rate applicable to an individual. The highest basic tax rate is 30%, above 10 lakh is 30%. The highest surcharge, is 37%, and the cess is 4%. So if you add all these three, not in terms of literally adding them, but you do percentage, 37% of 30 and 4% of 30 plus 11.1, you'll get 42.744%, and that is your MMR. Perfect. Guys, this is a section called 192 where you have to deduct TDS at average rates. I'm just going to read that also from the quick book. So let's do 192. Here we go. 192 is by employer when they're paying to employees. Every month while paying salary, employer has to deduct TDS. Employer has to calculate the average tax of the employee by taking details of employees' other incomes, deductions, and loss from house property, section 115 BC option, etc. TDS is on payment basis. If no PAN, then tax deducted will be at maximum marginal rates. That is section 192. So slowly and steadily, we'll cover one section of TDS, and we will do it in a way that you will remember it also. We'll revise it as well. So 192 employees, B is betting, BB is bigger bets, and 192 is TDS on salary. So these are three sections down. All these three, mind you, are right now on payment basis. Payment basis means whenever you are paid, that is the time they will deduct the TDS, and next month they will pay to the government. All right, this was TDS on salaries. Guys, clearing this up. In case you want to note this diagram down, you can pause and you can note it, but doesn't matter, guys. If you're short on time, just watch this video and you will clear all your doubts. So here we go, clear all my drawings. The next one, guys, is some of the employees, 192 employees, some of the employees wanted to do aram. They said that why should we work so hard, and why did they want to do aram? They wanted to do aram because they saw that they have enough money in their PF account, Provident Fund account. Guys, almost imagine if in your bank account you have a lot of money, will you work really hard? No. So these are some employees, not all, but some employees wanted to do aram. So they told the PF authority that, hey, PF authority, I have a PF account. They said, yes, you have it. Just like your bank account, you have a PF account. They say, I want to withdraw money from the PF account. This I want to withdraw. The PF authority says, listen, if you remember in salaries we had done that if you withdraw money from your RPF, see if it's a SPF account, withdrawal is not taxable. And if it's not taxable, there'll be no TDS. Just like when you go for a wedding, is there a bill at the end? No. So same way, if there is no tax, no TDS. But if you remember RPF, Recognized Provident Fund, which is other than government employees, everyone contributes to RPF. In RPF, if you withdraw within 5 years, if you withdraw money within 5 years, that means you're saving money for your retirement, but if you withdraw it very early, that is within 5 years, then it becomes taxable. And in that case, the government tells the PF authority that, hey, PF authority, whenever you're making payment of this withdrawal, you please deduct TDS at the rate of 10%, which is, by the way, the most common rate, and pay it to me, and use that person's PAN number, the employee's PAN number, while you make this payment. So what is the TDS rate, guys? On PF withdrawal, within 5 years, the TDS rate is 10%, but only if the amount is greater than 50,000. So if the withdrawal is more than 50,000, then on the entire amount, they will deduct TDS at the rate of 10% and pay to the government. That is section 192 employees, and A is Aram. So 192A is Aram. That is the section number. If you withdraw within 5 years your recognized provident fund, what about your SPF? SPF is always exempt and URPF is always taxable. Anyways, so if you withdraw within 5 years, your RPF, there's a small condition here. PF withdrawal, TDS is 10%, amount of 50,000. If no PAN, then MMR, then that's a big punishment, almost like you not writing your roll number in your exam. So it's a big mistake, and hence if no PAN, then they will deduct an MMR. You know, MMR is 42.744%. But now a small condition. Guys, what if in those 5 years you had to withdraw the money? Why? Because your company shut down, or you lost your job because your company shut down, or because of an illness. You lost your job because the company shut down or due to illness. So if any of these exceptional circumstances exist, what are the exceptions, guys? You losing your job because the company being shut down, or you losing your job because of illness, etc., disability, then in that case it will be exempt. And if it's exempt, there will be no TDS. Remember the golden rule, guys. If you go to a wedding or a birthday party, there is no bill at the end. Same way, if there is no tax, there will be no TDS. This is section 192A, again on payment basis. So what I'm doing first is I'm going in a pattern which says payment basis. So this one is also on payment basis, section 192A, A for Aram. So this was 192A, and now let's check out 192A also from the quick book, guys. After 192, that is 122A, which is from the quick book here. 192A is for Aram. It's a provident fund. When the employees withdraw provident fund more than 50,000 rupees aggregate, if it's withdrawn, then TDS will be at the rate of 10% if the amount is withdrawn within 5 years. After 5 years, no problem. Even within 5 years, if the withdrawal is due to loss of job, due to closure of business, disability or illness, then no problem. And TDS is on payment basis. If you don't give your PAN, that's a big punishment at MMR. That is section 192A. Now, guys, we are moving ahead to the next series. The next one is very, very interesting. Watch out, guys. Calorie Cafe is starting off. And remember, day one, Calorie Cafe is starting off, but they can't afford to buy a place. Initially, guys, no one buys, everyone rents out. So what they've done is they've rented out of space for a cafe, so land and building. They've also rented out plant and machinery, and they've also rented out furniture. So everything you see in the cafe initially is rented out because they're not sure if the cafe will work or not. So they rent it out like a true blue businessman. And they are making payments for rent to the landowner or to the shop owner, for the plant and machinery, and for the furniture. This is all rent that they are paying. The government is watching here, and the government says, listen, Calorie Cafe, whenever you're paying rent to these people, they will earn income and then they will pay a tax. So why don't you do one thing? Whenever you're paying them rent, whenever you either pay them or whenever you credit their books of their other amounts in your books of accounts. So payment or credit, whichever is earlier. I'm just going to write P or C, whichever is earlier. P or C, payment or credit, whichever is earlier. I'll just write it slightly better. Payment or credit, whichever is earlier. So that is the most common, guys. Till now we were only doing payment, but now it's payment or credit whenever is earlier. You will deduct TDS and you will pay me TDS at the rate of 10%. So whenever you're paying rent, deduct 10% and pay it to me. But in case of plant and machinery, please deduct only 2%. That's a benefit for those people renting out plant and machine. The TDS rate is only 2% on that. So the TDS rate will be 10% and 2% will be for plant and machinery. But there's a limit here. The limit is 2,40,000 only if the rent that you are paying is more than 2,40,000 per person per annum. So what is the limit? If the rent is more than 2,40,000 per person per annum, that means if I'm paying 2 lakh for the shop per annum, plus I'm paying 50,000 for the plant and machinery per annum for the same person, then will it be deducted? Yes. So this 2,40,000, you don't have to see per section. You have to see overall per person. If as a person, I'm getting more than 2,40,000 from Calorie Cafe, there will be TDS under section 194I, because I is initially. Initially, what do you do, guys? Initially, you rent, and whenever you pay rent, there will be TDS on this rent, and you will give the PAN number also of the owner. Obviously, if no PAN, then that's an offense. That's something that is not right, and hence there will be TDS, but not at MMR. It will be at the rate of 20%. So this is a section, guys. Two things here are very common. One, payment or credit, whichever is earlier. This will get repeated a lot of times. And if no PAN, then TDS will be at the rate of 20%, because you got to reveal yourself. You cannot hide yourself. If you don't give your PAN number, these people have to give their PAN number. If these people don't give their PAN number, then you will not have it, and you will not be able to give it to the government. So hence this will be TDS at the rate of 20%. There's a section attached to it. The section for no PAN is section 206AA. I call it always anonymous. If you always want to be anonymous, then we will deduct TDS at the rate of 20%. So let's just see the points here. 194I, I is initially you rent. It is on payment or credit basis, whichever is earlier. The TDS is at the rate of 20% on most things, that is land and building and furniture. On plant and machinery, it is 2%, and it has to be seen 2,40,000 per person per annum. If no PAN, then TDS will be at the rate of 20% under section 206AA. As this is a very, very good question. But here, just one more thing I want to point out. If ever you are paying any amount, including rent, to the government, there is a section called section 196, which says that in case of government, if you are making a payment to the government, then why do you deduct the TDS? No TDS to be deducted in that case. Guys, this is section 194I. As you saw, 192 was only two sections. 192 is salary, because 192 employees, and 192A is Aram. 193 we will go to, but most of the sections are 194. In that, 194I was right here. This is 194I. Initially, you rent. Any person except small individual, small HO, I'll explain this in 2 minutes. Any resident person, if you're making a payment to, TDS at the rate of 10%. In case of land and building and plant and machinery, it's 2% for plant and machinery if the aggregate payment per person is about 2,40,000 per person. This is furniture, guys, not plant and machinery. So for land and building and furniture, 10%. For plant and machinery, it is 2%. TDS on payment or credit, whichever is earlier. If no PAN, then tax at 20%. No TDS on GST. That means what? If someone charges you a rent of 2 lakh plus GST, on the GST you don't deduct TDS. So if let's say it's 18% GST, so on 2 lakh into 18%, that is 2,36,000, then TDS will be only on the 2 lakhs. And on lump sum lease payments, no TDS. So if you're not paying monthly payments, you're making lump sum payment, then there is no TDS. Example, if you paid for 3 years together at one go, then on that lump sum payments, there is no TDS. But just want to tell you what is small individual, small HUF. Guys, forget Calorie Cafe. Don't we as individuals also rent out houses? If you're moving, let's say, to a new city after you become a CA, or for articleship, let's say you're going for a new city, will you not rent out a house or a guest house or a small place? Then in that case, will you not be paying rent, and will you have to deduct TDS? No, because there's an exception that this section 194A does not apply, not applicable to small individuals and small HUFs. Now, what are these small individual, small HUF? By the way, it's a shortcut only for you and me. So don't write small individual, small HUF in the exam. I'll tell you what to write. But small individuals are those people who last year were not subject to audit. That means either they were in one of the heads like salary, etc., where there is no audit, or even if they were in business, the turnover is up to 1 crore or up to 50 lakhs. 1 crore for business, 50 lakh for profession. And same for HUF, that means last year the turnover is up to those limits that they were not subject to audit. So basically, small individual, small HUF, you will write are those individuals HUFs whose last year's turnover is up to 1 crore or up to 50 lakh respectively, 1 crore for business and 50 lakh for profession. All right, so this is 194I. Initially, you rent. Perfect. I'm just going to write this here. These were all 4 on payment basis. Now we've come to a category which is payment / credit, whichever is earlier basis. And in that, the first section we saw is 194I. Initially, you rent. Let's move ahead to the next one. Now, guys, Calorie Cafe is very well established. The same place where they rented out is now become the coolest hangout of the city. And now they want to buy that place. So this is them buying the immovable property. So this is the owner of land and building who's now going to sell that land and building. So we're not talking about plant and machinery. We're not talking about furniture. We're talking about the land or the land and building. And Calorie Cafe said, listen, I want to buy this cafe. I don't want to rent anymore. I want to buy it. So they say, okay, pay me 60 lakh rupees and you have the cafe. So the sale price was 60 lakh rupees. The government is watching this transaction and they want to know who this seller is. They want to know who is this person who will have to pay capital gains tax. So they tell Calorie Cafe that, listen, Calorie Cafe, whenever you're making this payment, deduct only 1%. Why only 1%? Because we don't want money. We want to know who is this person selling. From the sale price, you deduct 1% only if the sale price is more than 50 lakhs. If it's more than 50 lakh, let's say 60 lakhs, on that 1% on 60 lakhs will be 60,000. You have to deduct 60,000 and pay to the government by the 7th of the next month. As this section is when you're buying immovable property. So it is section 194IA. The shortcut is immovable property acquired. There's a shortcut for every section. 194IA. The TDS rate, guys, is 1%. If the sale price, not the stamp duty value, we don't care about the stamp duty value, but the sale price, which could include parking, which could include maintenance, clubhouse charges, whatever is it, total it, all it up, and the sale price is more than 50 lakh rupees, then TDS at the rate of 1%. Again, this is payment or credit, whichever is earlier. And here, this is applicable to everyone. So even when you are buying a house, it is applicable to small individual, small HUF. Yes, it is applicable to everyone. But as a small individual, small HUF, as a student, if you're buying something, or as a newly qualified CA, if you're buying something, how are you expected to pay by the 7th of the next month? Isn't that a very early deadline? Yes. So here they've said that you don't need to pay within 7 days. You can pay within 30 days after the end of the month. So if you buy it today, that is April 2nd, then let April get over. Then from March 1st, 30 days, that is by 30th March, you need to pay this TDS to the government. Guys, this is 194IA. Let's have a look here. 194IA, immovable property you acquired. Any person making a payment to a resident person, TDS at the rate of 1% if the sale consideration is more than 50 lakh, not stamp duty value, what you're paying, guys. Exception, no TDS. Yes, I forgot to mention this, but let me tell you guys. In case you were buying not this cafe, but you were buying an agricultural land in rural areas, then there will be no TDS. Why? Because sale of rural agricultural land, if you remember, guys, selling a rural agricultural land, there is no capital gain, no tax, and hence no TDS. Also, if it's compulsory acquisition, if the government is compulsory acquiring it, then there's another section for TDS, so not this. So this does not apply in 2 cases. When you're selling or buying rural agricultural land or when there is compulsory acquisition. Going back, TDS on payment or credit, whichever is earlier, and if no PAN, then tax at 20%. This is pretty common. This is section 194I. TDS can be paid within 30 days from the end of the month, and sale consideration includes club fee, parking fee, etc. So all of this together is 194IA. So 194IA is also done. This is immovable property that you acquire. 194IA, first, that is immovable property. You can't acquire, so you rent it out. Initially, you rent. and then you acquire it. Guys, going now to this next one, they're all interrelated somehow. So this is Calorie Cafe, and now they're very happy they bought a place and they are very well established. But suddenly one day the government officer calls him up that, listen, we want to build a metro over your cafe, so we want to compulsorily acquire your cafe. But don't worry, we won't throw you out. We'll pay you a good price for it. And the government says, listen, if you are going to pay him a good price for it, then he will be subject to capital gain. So why don't you do one thing? You deduct TDS at the rate of 10%. So guys, here also you're acquiring, but who's acquiring? Not you, but the government is acquiring compulsorily or legally, and hence the section is 194 LA, legally acquire. As I told you, there's a shortcut for every section. 194 LA, legally acquire. It says when the government is purchasing from you, they will pay you market price, but they will deduct 10%. So the rate increases, guys. In IA, the rate was 1%. Here, the rate is 10%. So TDS at the rate of 10%. Only if the amount is more than 2,50,000. So only if the amount is more than 2,50,000 sale price, only then there will be TDS at the rate of 10%. And of course, it's the government acquiring, so hence this will be on payment basis, guys, because the government is acquiring, so it will be on payment basis. So this, and if there is no PAN, then TDS is at the rate of 20%. So this is 194 LA. I'm writing it here because it's on payment basis. Because guess who is acquiring it? The government is acquiring it, legally acquire. Let's have a look at it from the quick book. Here we go. 194 LA, legally acquire. Any person, resident person, TDS at the rate of 10% in case of amount paid on compulsory acquisition of immovable property above 2.5 lakhs. TDS on payment basis, and if no PAN, then tax at the rate of 20%. This is 194 LA. Very, very interesting, guys. Now moving to the next section and the next one. And there are three of them together. If you understand one, you'll understand all three together. Guys, whenever Calorie Cafe wanted to take a new place, either on rent or to buy, etc., they would ask someone to help them, and we call them the helper. So let's say this guy is the helper, and this is Calorie Cafe. And whenever Calorie Cafe wanted a place to rent or wanted a place to buy, this helper was like a broker, and he would show them around. And obviously, Calorie Cafe would pay him some money. And the government would always tell Calorie Cafe, whenever you're paying him money, please deduct TDS and pay to me as well. So this is section 194H. 194H, H is for helper. So whenever you're paying any commission or brokerage, whenever you're paying any commission or whenever you're paying any brokerage, then you need to deduct TDS. Guys, watch out, TDS will be at the rate of 5%. If the amount that you're paying to that person is more than 15,000 rupees. So if we are paying more than 15,000 rupees to that broker or to that helper or to that commission agent, then TDS will be at the rate of 5%. And again, here, guys, this will not apply to small individuals and small HUFs. Why? Because, guys, as a small individual, will you also have brokers? Every time you pay to a broker, will you deduct TDS? No, it does not apply to small individuals and small HUF. This is section 194H. H is for helper. Now I told you there are three sections which are very similar. So watch out for the next section, guys. Here, Calorie Cafe was paying, what were they paying? They were paying commission or they were paying brokerage. Now there's a slightly different person. This guy is an insurance agent. He is an insurance agent. So basically he sells insurance policies, and because he sells insurance policies, insurance companies pay him money. Of course, they pay him brokerage and commission. So the payment is the same, commission and brokerage, but it is to pay to an insurance agent. So you're slightly different. But why do you buy insurance, guys? You buy insurance because you're scared of death or doctor's fees. So section 194D. 194D, D is death or doctor's fees. That's what section 194D says, that whenever insurance companies pay commission or brokerage to insurance agent, they have to deduct TDS and pay to the government. And TDS, why is it similar, guys? Why are these two sections similar? Because here also it is commission slash brokerage. but it is basically for insurance. Here also the TDS rate is 5%. Here also if the amount is more than 10,000, sorry, 15,000. So this is the same. Yes, this is the same. This is the same. This is the same. Commission brokerage here also, except it's an insurance commission. This is section 194D. D is for death or doctor's fees. Guys, here there is nothing like small individual, small HUF, because insurance companies will not be small individual, small HUF. They'll be big anyways. And last, guys, this is the government. And these are people who are selling lotteries. Guys, these are people who sell lotteries, and they're not the greatest best people, guys, because they make people in the habit of gambling. They encourage people to do gambling, but the government of course pays them a commission or a brokerage because they sell in lottery tickets. And here the government says, because you're paying them, why don't you also deduct TDS? Again, the same rate, guys, 5% more than 15,000. But here, because they encourage gambling, it's called 194G. This is also commission, but on lottery ticket. This is also commission or brokerage, but on lottery tickets. Here also, guys, the TDS rate is at the rate of 5% if the amount is more than 15,000. So on and all these three sections are same. Yes, the same, because rates are the same, 5%, 5%, 5%. Threshold is the same, more than 15, more than 15, more than 15. This is H for helper. This is normal commission on brokerage. This is D, that is insurance commission and brokerage. And this is G, that is lottery commission and brokerage. So the nature of payment is slightly different. Otherwise, threshold is the same. And only H does not apply to small individuals, small HUF. The others are anyways not small individuals, small HUF. They always have to be big. That is three sections into one. And on all these three, payment or credit, whichever is earlier. So 194D, 194, sorry, this is 194H first, 194D, and 194G, helper, death or doctor's fees, and gamble. These are the three sections already. Let's move ahead to the quick book and let's read it from there. (194H) helper or brokerage. Any person except small individual, small HUF, to any resident person. TDS at the rate of 5% if the amount is more than 15,000. Payment or credit, whichever is earlier. If no PAN, then 20%. That is 194H. This is G, same thing, except it's on lottery company paying it to a lottery agent. And 194D is here. Insurance commission paid, otherwise everything is the same. So these are three sections that we've just done. Let's move ahead to the next one now, clearing this up for the next bit. All right, now starting off two sections which are really interesting and different. So one is on death. When we said that we take insurance because we might get scared of death or doctor's fees, we take insurance. So this is the amount that you receive on life insurance. This is the deduction on that. So guys, watch out. This is a life insurance corporation, LIC, or any life insurance company like HDFC Life, etc. And they are making you a payment. This is you are the insured person, and they are making you a payment. Now what happens is sometimes the payment is made when someone expires. So let's say if you are no more and your family members, unfortunately you're no more and your family members get the money, then in that case under section 1010D, there is a section called, there's a chapter called exemption. In that 1010D, again 1010D, D for death, in that it is exempt. If it is on death of a person, it is exempt, and if it is exempt, there is no TDS. Also, if the premiums are low premium, that means all the premiums are low. What is low? Low means before 1/4/2012 the low premium was 20%, and now they've become 10%. On or after 1st of April 2012 they've become 10%. So depending on when you've taken the policy, if all the premiums are low, then when you get the money back, there is no TDS. For disabled people, the amount became 20 to 15% from 1st of April 2013. So if the premiums are low, then there is exemption, and exemption means there is no TDS, there is no tax. But what if the premiums are high? Then in that case, whenever the life insurance company pays you, the government says, even we want money. So they will deduct TDS and they will pay to the government. This is TDS at the rate of 5%, but there are some conditions. First of all, the section, this is the death amount. So section 194DA, actually it's not death amount. On death of a person is exempt, but DA had to relate to something. So DA is death amount, basically amount received on life insurance. The TDS is at the rate of 5%. Threshold is if the amount is greater than 1 lakh. So the amount should be more than 1 lakh. If you get 90,000, even if it's taxable, you will pay the tax. There will be no TDS. Guys, remember, TDS and taxable are two interrelated things. Every income is taxable, but on some things there will be TDS also. So if the amount is more than 1 lakh rupees, that's the threshold. And now let's say, guys, you took a policy of 10 lakh rupees and your premiums are high. That means it is taxable, and you've already paid 3 premiums. That means 2 lakh rupees, let's say, was a premium into 3. You've already paid 6 lakhs. So what they mean to say is 10 lakhs minus 6 lakhs. So only on 4 lakhs, ideally, this is your income. Only on this, you should be deducting TDS. So TDS should not be on the entire 10 lakhs because that's not your income. 10 lakhs minus the premium paid. So you basically have to calculate the net amount. And on that net amount, there will be TDS. And what is the net amount? Whatever is you're getting minus whatever you've paid, that is your net amount. So again, I'm repeating, this is 194DA. Again, just let's complete it. And if no PAN, then 20%. Payment or credit, whichever is earlier, all that remains common. Anything else? Yes, that's about it. So this is 194DA death amount, TDS at the rate of 5% if the amount is more than 1 lakh on the net amount. So you'll have to every time calculate the net amount. As this is 194DA. Having a look at it from the quick book. Yeah. Any person, TDS is at the rate of 5% on the net receipts, that is amount received from insurance company, that's insurance premiums. TDS only if amount is more than 1 lakh. Receipts from life insurance is taxable only if the premiums are higher than the limits discussed under section 1010D. That is section 194DA. Now getting to 2 more sections which are not related to anything, so I'm discussing them separately. Here we go, guys. But first, in our completed list, let's write 194DA, that is death amount received in case of life insurance. All right, going to the next one now, clearing this. Calorie Cafe, guys, as a cafe, if you give a 2000 rupee note, can they say, listen, we don't have change? No, they will have to get you change. And hence Calorie Cafe, every morning before the cafe would start, all the Calorie Cafes, they would go to the bank and they would withdraw money. The government was very curious. Who are these people who withdraw so much money? Very, very important, guys, this section. So the government told the bank that, hey, bank, who are these people who withdrawing so much money? The bank said Calorie Cafe is the person. So the government says, listen, bank, till they are withdrawing up to 1 crore rupees from your bank. Of course, every bank is separate. So till they are withdrawing up to 1 crore rupees, no problem. But if they withdraw more than 1 crore rupees aggregate, that means 10 lakh, 10 lakh, 10 lakh, 10 lakh, 10 times, no problem. But the 11th time, is it going to go more than 1 crore? Yes. So in that case, if they withdraw so much notes, you need to deduct TDS at the rate of 2% and pay it to me. That is section 194N, N for notes. If they withdraw so much of notes, this is on cash withdrawal. The government doesn't like cash withdrawal, guys. You know it. Demonetization, if you remember, the government doesn't like cash and cash withdrawal, and hence TDS will be at the rate of 2%. But the most unique part of this section is every time the TDS was on the entire amount, but this time it's only on that excess amount above 1 crore. So if you withdraw 1 crore and 5 lakhs, only on 5 lakhs will there be TDS at the rate of 2%. This does not apply to some people. Who does not apply to? Guys, this section is not applicable to some people who have to withdraw a lot of money, like the government, like bankers or banks, and like white label ATMs. If you know what a white label ATM is, great. Otherwise, let me tell you, guys, generally ATMs are operated by banks, but even companies like even a Tata Indicom or a Vodafone can have an ATM. There's a policy. They have not started it, but they can have these kind of ATMs. Not many companies go into it, but Tata, I know Tata Indicom, a company, has started ATMs for other banks. So you can also do that, and you will be called a white label ATM. You're not a bank, you're other company starting up ATM. So white label ATMs, banks, and government people, government authorities or government departments, they don't are not subject to section 194N. Guys, repeating 194N, it's on cash withdrawal. Now, guys, the government got a little more curious. They said, if you've not filed your return for the last 3 years, so last 3 years returns, whichever date you are in right now, it's April. So the last 3 years of due date has gone by. If you've not filed all the last 3 years returns, all, not one, all of them you've not filed, then in that case, the TDS rate and the threshold will change. More than 20 lakhs withdrawal from a particular bank account, then TDS will be 2%. And more than 1 crore, the TDS rate will increase to 5%. So these are higher TDS rates. Honestly, guys, this is going to be very painful. Imagine withdrawing 100 rupees from a bank account, getting only 95. That is wrong, right? Same thing. But of course, the TDS goes to the government in your name, so you can always take a credit. But this is a punishment. If you have not filed 3 years returns, all 3 returns are not filed, then the TDS rate changes. If the withdrawal is more than 20 lakhs, then 2%, and the withdrawals are more than 1 crore, then at 5%, this will be the TDS rate under section 194N. This is notes. Let's have a look at the quick book on 194N. Banks, cooperative banks or post offices, whenever they are paying money to any person, TDS at the rate of 2% if the amount is more than 1 crore per bank per annum. However, from 1st July, if the ROI is not filed for all the 3 previous years, then TDS 2% above 20 lakhs and 5% above 1 crore. No TDS if withdrawal is by government, banks, post offices, white label ATMs. TDS only on the excess amount. This is a unique thing which is only talking about excess, and TDS only on payment basis. So this one again is on payment basis. Whenever you remove, as and when the banks will know, and hence this is only on payment basis. Section 194N, N for notes. This is very important, especially this punishment is very, very important. Now, going to the next one, guys, what you see is generally a small house, but what a builder sees is he sees a 5-story building. If you remember in capital gain chapter, 5 additional floors. So you, along with the builder, this is the builder, you all enter into a joint development agreement and you give him your land or your bungalow, small bungalow, and he promises you to give you some land plus some money. Now on land, of course, you cannot do TDS. You cannot cut some land and give it to the government. So on land, there is no TDS. But on the payment that the builder makes you, the government says, listen, even I want some part of it. So the government says, listen, you need to deduct TDS at the rate of 10% and pay it to me in case of joint development agreement. So what the builder sees is 5-story building. So 194 IC. IC is basically for joint development agreement. The TDS rate is at the rate of 10% on payment or credit, whichever is earlier. If no PAN, 20%, which is common. Let's have a look on this IC section, 194 IC. Here we go. Any person making a payment, TDS at the rate of 10% on amount paid under joint development agreement. TDS on payment or credit, whichever is earlier. If no PAN, then TDS at the rate of 20%. Guys, this is a unique section, 194 IC. Now going to the heart of TDS sections, 2 sections which are very, very important but very interesting. I'm giving a shortcut also for that. Watch out for the next 2 sections on the screen. This is 194 IC. Before we move ahead, this is 194 IC. Now 2 sections which are absolutely important from an exam perspective. The next one is one of the most interesting and the most common questions that are asked in the ICI exam. The next one is on contractor, but of course we have an example of Calorie Cafe. So guys, it's Calorie Cafe's grand opening day and they are throwing a huge opening party, inauguration party, and they have taken the help of many contractors. First up, there is a caterer. Why does a restaurant need a catering? Because they serve healthy food. They want someone to make the kachoris and the jalebis and the samosas. So they asked a caterer to come do catering. They also asked a decorator to do the decoration for them. So that is another contractor who will do the decoration. They asked a transporter. A transporter is a goods transport agency to transport all the material, etc. They also asked an advertising company to make an advertisement for them, which is going to be played on all radio channels, TV channels, etc. And they also asked Archies to make personalized diaries for them. So whoever comes to their opening will get a personalized name, read, and diary. So the material for the diary, They told Archies you can choose the diary, material, etc. Just the name of Calorie Cafe and the name of the person has to be embossed. So to slightly personalize a diary. These were the people whose help they had taken for the inauguration party. You're also invited, so am I. Let's go and let's see what's happening there. But before we see what the party is like, the government has a question. The government is telling Calorie Cafe that Calorie Cafe, all this is good, but when you are going to make all these payments to these caterers, decorators, etc., it's their income. So why don't you do one thing? You, whenever you are making a payment to them, why don't you deduct some TDS and you pay to me? But these are contractors, they don't make too much money. So deduct only at the rate of 2% TDS, only a small amount. And that too, if the person who's earning these incomes is an individual or an HUF, then deduct only 1%. So basically the rate of TDS is very, very low. This, guys, is a section called section 194C. C is for contractor, as you guess. And in case of contractor, the TDS rate is at the rate of 2%, and sometimes it can be also 1%, depending upon who the contractor is. If he's an individual HUF, then only 1%. Guys, there's a shortcut here. The shortcut is small personal limit. Let's see what this small personal limit. It's a very nice shortcut. First, this section does not apply to small individual, small HUF. So if you're a small individual or small HUF, you know who they are. Then whenever you make a payment to contractor, don't deduct TDS, no problem, be happy. Next, if it's for a personal purpose, example, it's not Calorie Cafe's inauguration party, but it's your house inauguration or your birthday party, etc. Then in case of personal purposes, you don't have to make and deduct any TDS. And if they are within certain limits, what are the limits, guys? The limits are 30,000 per payment, per person, per payment, or 1 lakh per annum per person. That means every per payment, if you're making a payment to the caterer, if the payment is 30,000 or 29,000, no TDS because it's below that threshold limit. So per payment, the threshold limit is 30,000. But if you make 30,000 4 payments, then it goes above 1 lakh. So on the entire amount, you'll have to deduct TDS at the rate of 2% or 1%. So remember, up to 30,000 individually and up to 1 lakh aggregate, no TDS. But any of these thresholds crossed, you'll have to pay TDS. This is basically on payment or credit, whichever is earlier. If no PAN, then 20% will be the TDS rate and so on and so forth. These are the details. Guys, a couple of more details. First, in case of goods transport agency, no TDS if 2 conditions are satisfied. They are holding up to 10 goods carriages only during the year. That means they are a small goods carriage company and up to 10 goods carriages, and they give you a PAN details. So if that is the case, then in that case, you do not deduct any TDS. Also, you will deduct only if there is works contract will you deduct TDS. What is a works contract? Where you're giving specifications also and you're giving material also. That means for those diaries, is it a works contract or is it a purchase? In case of Archies, you give them the specifications that you want the logo and the color, etc. But the materials you did not give, and hence it is not a works contract, it's a purchase. I'll give you another example. Let's say if in my office we make furniture and we tell the furniture carpenter how to make it, what to make, and we give him main material, then in that case it's a works contract and we have to deduct TDS under 194C. But if we go to IKEA and we purchase furniture, then in that case a purchase, and in that case there will be no TDS under 194C. So in case of works contract, only there will be TDS. In case of GTA, in these two conditions fulfilled, there will be no TDS. Guys, this is a very important section called 194C. Just reading it from the book as well. 194C should be here. Contractor, small personal limit, except small individual, small HUF, personal purposes or payment up to certain limits, you will have to deduct TDS at the rate of 2% or 1%. Transport contractor having up to 10 goods carriages and giving the PAN. Single amount up to 30,000 or aggregate payment up to 1 lakh per annum, there is no TDS. TDS on payment or credit, whichever is earlier, if no PAN, 20%. Works contract, specification, material, advertisement also, guys. But if you buy a ready-made ad, then in that case there is no contract. But if they make it for you, in that case there is a contract. Guys, when you land your airplane at the airport and you park it, that landing and parking, it's not rent, it's a contract. So again, 194C will apply there. So these are all details about 194C. Really interesting section, also very common in the exam. This is section 194C. All right, very close to 194C. Remember, small personal limit is another section which is called 194J. This is Calorie Cafe. To run a cafe so huge, they needed a lot of professionals. So these are professionals, example CAs, lawyers, etc. They also needed technical persons to make their app, etc. They needed to pay people some non-compete fee sometimes so that the chefs don't join competitors. They had to pay non-compete fee. They also had to pay royalty. And last, they also had to pay directors fees. If let's say Calorie Cafe is a company and they have directors, and the directors fees they had to pay. So this was PTNRD. That's the shortcut, guys. If Calorie Cafe is going to pay PTNRD, the government here says, listen, whenever you're making a payment to these professionals for professional fee, why don't you deduct TDS at the rate of 10%? Why 10% for these guys and 2% for contractors? Because professionals make more margins as compared to contractors. But here also it is 2% in case of royalty on movies, in case of technical services, and call center services. So in three cases, royalty, movie royalty, technical services, and call center services, it's 2%. Otherwise, it is 10%. As they found that all professionals are very jealous of each other, and hence the section 194J. Here also, guys, small personal limit, small individual, small HUFs pay without any worry. Personal purposes pay without any worry, and limit here, the limit is only one limit, that is the limit of 1 lakh rupees. We don't have the 30,000 limit here. So this is the case. We have only a one limit, that is a 30,000 limit. And guys, this limit does not apply to directors. So if you're paying the directors even less than 30,000, no limit, there will be TDS in that case. So this is basically 194J, jealous professionals. The TDS will be at the rate of 10%. Of course, keeping in mind small personal limit, director's fees, there is no limit. On these three things, it will be 2%. Let's have a look at the quick book on 194J. Jealous professionals, PTNRD, and small personal limit. Small personal limit, no TDS for small individual, small HUFs for personal purposes and for payment within a limit. TDS is 10%. No TDS if the amount paid is up to 30,000. The limit of 30,000 per annum does not apply to payments made to directors' remuneration. TDS will be 2% in case of technical services, call center, and movie royalty. Payment or credit, whichever is earlier. Even on software, there will be TDS on the royalty amount, as this is section 194J. Guys, you know, small individuals, small HUF are very happy because J does not apply to them, H does not apply to them, and C does not apply to them. So they are making huge payments to these people without worrying. So the government caught them, and the next two sections are only for small individuals, small HUFs. Let's fill in this 194J, and let's go back to the next section. Clearing this up, guys, these are small individuals and small HUFs. The next two sections are basically only for small individuals, small HUFs. They are making payment to professionals. They are making payments to brokers or helpers. And they are making payment to contractors. Big payments they are making to these guys without deducting TDS. Because if you remember, 194J, H, and C does not apply to them. 194J, 194H, and 194C does not apply to small individual, small HUF. So they are making huge payments, and the government is saying that this is not right. They are misusing this section or these exemption. So the government says, because you guys are misusing it, the section is 194M, M is for misuse. The government asked them, can you justify his case? J, justify, H, his, and C, case. Can you justify this case of huge payments? They could not. They were misusing it. So hence the government says, on this, there will be TDS if you make a payment to these guys at the rate of 5%, but only on huge payments, that is above 50 lakhs per annum. So if you're making a payment to per person more than 50 lakhs per annum, then only TDS at the rate of 5%. Obviously, if no PAN 20% payment or credit, whichever is earlier, those things are common. This is section 194M. This only applies to small individuals, small HUF. Reading it from the QuickBook here, 194M, really interesting section. 194M only applies to small individual, small HUFs. Justify his case, misuse. TDS at the rate of 5% amount paid to professionals, helpers, and contractors if the aggregate amount paid per person is more than 50 lakhs. TDS on payment of credit, whichever is earlier, no PAN 20%. And because it's a small individual, small HUF, guys, remember, whenever a small individual, small HUF has to pay, then they get 30 days. They don't have to pay within 7 days. They have 30 days to pay after the end of the month. This is 194M. This is 194M, small individual, small HUFs. Also, guys, small individuals, small HUF were getting one more benefit whenever they were paying brokerage. Sorry, yes. Whenever they were paying brokerage, whenever they were renting, they did not have to deduct TDS because 194I was not applicable to them. Initially, your rent is not applicable to small individual HUF. So whenever they were renting out, 194I was not applicable. But guys, they said, the government says, listen, people are renting out big flats. So if you're going to rent out immobile property and the rent is going to be more than 50,000 per month, then that means you're paying a lot of money. So the government is also expecting some TDS. But 194I does not apply to you, but don't worry, this will apply to you. This is section 194IB. I'll give you a shortcut for this also. Here, the TDS at the rate of 5% if the monthly rent is more than 50,000 rupees. This is not for furniture, not for plant and machinery, only for land and building, immobile property, more than 50,000 per month at the rate of 5%. And don't worry, you're a small individual, small HUF. Every time you pay rent for a house, I'm not expecting you every month to deduct TDS and pay to the government. So you can do that once in a year. So from April to March, if for 12 months you're renting a house, then you don't need to deduct TDS every month. You can do that in the last month. For the month of March, you can deduct it. Example, let's say you're paying 70,000 every month. So 70,000 into 12 is 8,40,000 into 5%, that is 42,000. So in the last month, when you pay 70,000, you can minus 42,000 and pay the government is in 30 days. But what if you vacate earlier? Then earlier, so in the year, whenever you vacate or the last month, whichever is the case, you will deduct TDS. So TDS month is important here. And of course, you will pay within 30 days. This is section IB. IB is impossible to buy. As lots of us find it impossible to buy properties and hence we rent them out. So impossible to buy is 194IB. Let's have a look at that also. These two sections are only applicable to small individuals, small HUFs. 194IB is here. Only applicable to small individuals, small HUF. A resident person, TDS at the rate of 5% if the rent paid is more than 50,000 per month. TDS cannot be more than the last month's rent. TDS can be paid within 30 days from the end of the month. TDS on payment of credit, whichever is earlier, no PAN, then tax at 20%. TDS to be deducted in the last month of the year or the last month of vacation, whichever is earlier. So whenever you vacate or the last month of the year, whichever is earlier, that is when you need to deduct this, not before that. So no problem. We've done a lot of sections already. I'll tell you the ones we have not done, why we haven't done till now. You will see when we do them. Back to back, they will happen and they are the same rate. But right now, it's a very different world of online business that we are tackling. So the next one is a very different case of online sales. Here we go. Two slightly different sections. This is 194M and 194IB. So I'm just going to write here 194M is misuse and 194IB is impossible to buy. Both these are applicable to small individuals and small HUFs only. So keep them in mind. I'm also discussing them in the same order so that it's easier for you to remember. All right, going to the next section, which in COVID, guys, everyone started selling things online. There were people selling food online to Ubers and Olas, of course, are going online. Everyone's selling online. So the government wants to be a part of this online business. So this is Zomato. And let's say you're selling food online. So what do, guys? They collect the money of the food that you sell. Let's say you're selling some home cooked meals or some pizzas on Zomato. When people order, Zomato gets the money. And when they get the money, they pay it to you. This is you are selling online on Zomato. And the government says, I want to be a part of this party too. So they tell Zomato that Zomato, listen, deduct TDS, but not a not amount, only at the rate of 1% because I want to know who are these people selling, and I want to know whether they pay tax or not. So deduct TDS at the rate of 1%, and this is for online sales. So section is section 194O. O is for online. The TDS rate is 1%. It's a very basic rate because of course this is new, so you can't shock people with a lot of tax at first. So TDS is only at the rate of 1%, payment or credit, whichever is earlier. And here, if you don't give your PAN, then there is an exception. It will not be 20%, it will be only 5%. It will not be 20%. So that is a new thing. If no PAN, then 5% will be the TDS rate. Here, but because there are small people selling, they said that if you're an individual or an HUF, that means you're not a very big company or a partnership firm. And if you're an individual HUF, up to 5 lakh rupees of turnover from one e-commerce website, no TDS will apply in case of up to 5 lakhs only. So this is section 194O. I'm going to quickly show it to you from this list here. 194O online, e-commerce operators, e-commerce participant, TDS at the rate of 1% on the gross amounts. No TDS if the seller is an individual HUF and gross amount sales during the year does not exceed 5 lakhs. TDS on payment or credit, whichever is earlier. If no PAN, then TDS at the rate of 5%. This is very unique a percentage because they don't want to make it 20 times at 20%. So hence they kept it at 5%. And guys, before we get to the next leg, this is 194O. One more unique thing, which is pretty new, is what I will discuss on the screen right now. Guys, there are pretty old people who earn pension payments from banks. Actually, the pension comes from the employer, the government, etc., but it comes through your bank account. So these are older people, generally above 60 years, but these are more than 75 years old. This provision or this TDS section is only for people more than 75 years old. If you're going to get some pension income into your bank account and some interest income into your bank account, and the bank will pay this money to you, the government had told the bank that, bank, listen, these are people who are old and they are getting pension plus interest. So what you do, why don't you become their CA? Almost, why don't you see how much is a pension income? Guys, you know, monthly pension is taxable, plus interest is also taxable. You give them you take these incomes, you give them reduction 80 TTB. If you remember, for big people, they will get up to 50,000 rupees 80 TTB reduction. Plus they will give a standard deduction of 50,000 on pensions because it's also salary. So you do all that math and you find out the average rate and you deduct TDS at the average rate. Why? So that these people, whatever tax they have to pay, they have paid through TDS, so they don't have to pay any advance tax and they don't have to file their return to claim any refund, etc. That is a benefit given under section 194P. P is for pension, and this is for only some specified people who are more than 75 years. Who are these specified people? Who have pension income plus interest income, and both of them have to come in the same bank. Only then it is possible. And what will be the TDS rate? The TDS rate will be at the rate of average rate. We had last seen average rate in case of salaries, and this is being repeated here as well. This is the newest section and hence it's got the most amount of importance. A specified bank paying to a specified senior citizen, TDS to be deducted by the bank at rates in force for senior citizen at greater than 75 years, having only pension and interest income both earned in the same bank. This avoids the burden to file return at the end of the year for such senior citizen. Also, no burden to pay advance tax or no burden to pay interest. These are the better parts of this section 194P. Remember, P is for pension. So 194P, this is the latest 194P, P for pension. That was 194P, and now we go to the last few sections, and all the sections have one thing common, guys. Till now you were spending money, you were paying contractors, you were paying professionals, you were paying rent, you were buying a house, so they were payments, and now this is income. So when you are earning income, now this is from your income perspective. All the sections, the common rate, the TDS rate is 10%. So this is a common thing of all the sections that we will learn starting from this next section. Guys, what is the first thing that Calorie Cafe does with all the money they make? They invested in debentures of companies, in government securities, basically interest-bearing securities. So this is the payer. And what are they paying? They are paying interest But this is interest on debentures, government securities, etc. On that, this is the investor. He earns interest. And the government says, listen, that is great. You earning is great, but we want TDS, and the TDS rate is at the rate of 10%. Guys, this section is the only section which is in the section 193. So section 193 talks about interest on debentures on securities. The TDS rate will be at the rate of 10%. And this will be only if the interest amount is more than 5,000 rupees. So only if the interest is more than 5,000 rupees, there will be TDS at the rate of 10%. And here, in case of government securities, so yes, in the TDS rate is 10% if the interest is more than 5,000. Again, if no PAN 20%, payment or credit basis, whichever is earlier, that is the section. And I'm making a small bifurcation because from here onwards, all of them are income. This is the first one, section 193. I'm just opening it up in this book here, 193. Let's have a look at section 193. Here we go. Any person paying money to any person holding securities, 10% in case of government bonds. So if you're holding government bonds, the TDS only if the nominal value of the government bond exceeds 10,000. No TDS if the interest on debentures paid by check only up to 5,000. Up to 5,000, no TDS. Above that, there will be TDS at the rate of 10%. 8% saving taxable bonds up to 10,000 value, no TDS. So guys, there are two things here. The main thing is interest more than 5,000, only then there'll be TDS. And in case of certain government bonds, only the nominal value is more than 10,000. And if no PAN, then TDS at the rate of 20%, not MMR, guys. This is the mistake here. TDS at the rate of 20%. Perfect. This is section 193. Just adding one more thing, guys. In case of 193, if the investor here is LIC or GIC, then there will be no TDS because LIC and GIC have so much investment that the government says on that interest, they will not have to deduct any TDS. So if the investor here is LIC or GIC, then that's an exception. There will be no TDS. So that is section 193. Now going to the next one. Now again, you have money, but you don't want to give it on debentures. You want to earn interest, guys, from other people. Example, banks can pay you interest. Your friend can pay you interest. A partnership firm can pay you interest. Basically, you're earning interest income other than securities. So this is also interest income, but this is interest other than securities. And this is an investor or a lender. And you have lent money to the bank, like deposited money or given money to a friend as a loan or given money to a partnership firm, and you are earning interest. Again, the government says that, listen, you need to deduct TDS while you're doing this payment at the rate of 10%. As this is section 194A. How do I remember it? A is for Axis Bank. You basically deposit in a bank, which is Axis Bank. So here is Axis Bank. The TDS rate is the same, guys. TDS is 10% if the amount is more than 5,000 rupees. Guys, if the interest is more than 5,000 rupees, but there are some exceptions. Let's discuss the exceptions. If it's coming from a bank account, then more than 40,000 only then. And in case of senior citizens, more than 50,000 only then. So if the bank is paying you interest, then more than 50,000 or 40,000, but based on CBS. CBS means if I have a branch, if I have an account with the HDFC Bank Mumbai branch and HDFC Bank Ahmedabad branch, then they both know me together, and hence we have to see aggregate per bank and not per branch. So per bank, HDFC Bank Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Delhi, all three together, if I'm earning more than 40,000 or 50,000, then there will be TDS. Second exception, this does not apply to small individuals and small HUFs. That means if a small individual, small HUF, like a friend is paying me, then in that case, there will be no TDS. Also, it does not apply if you're paying to a resident partner. In case of a partnership firm, if you're paying to a resident partner, then there is no TDS. These are exception. And one more exception is if you are paying to a bank, not the bank is paying to you. If you are paying to the bank interest, then there is no TDS. So in this case, in these four cases, there will be no TDS. Up to 40,000, 50,000, small individual, small HUF, resident partners, and paying if you're paying to a bank. And guys, if sometimes in a motor accident tribunal, a motor accident, sometimes a compensation is given to you called Motor Accident Claims Tribunal. In that case, if the amount is up to 50,000 rupees, there will be no TDS. Only if it's above 50,000 will there be TDS. This is section 194A. Guys, 194A, again, the same constant is 10%. Axis Bank, interest other than interest on securities, everyone except small individual, small HUF. 10% no TDS if interest is up to 5,000, that we know. In case of banks, 40,000 and 50,000. On interest paid to resident partners, no TDS, and payment under motor accident claim tribunal up to 50,000, no TDS. And no TDS when you are making a payment to the bank. TDS on payment of credit, whichever is earlier, 20%, and limit should be based on CBS. CBS basically means the bank, every bank knows its branches. So hence not per branch. This 40-50,000 limit is per bank, not per branch. That is 194A. Filling the detail up here, after 193, it was 194A. Now guys, if you remember section 80C deduction, girl's life now needs 5 senior assets. In that case, I had told you that if you invest in national savings certificate, you get a deduction under 80C, and I had done that. I had invested in national savings certificates, but a very extremely exhausting process to remove the money, etc. Why was I saying that? Because here, whenever NSC, national savings certificates, they pay you money as an investor, the government says, listen, you need to deduct TDS, and of course this is income, so you need to deduct TDS at the rate of 10%, only if the amount is more than 2,500. As this is a section called 194EE, extremely exhausting, and this is on national savings certificate amount, and if the amount is more than 2,500. How do you remember this limit? Guys, not many people put a lot of money, and hence the limit is smaller, and the TDS rate will be 10%, which is a constant rate. That is 194EE. I'm taking you to 194EE, just one second. 193 is done. So from the top, these three are done. This is done, this is done, this is done. 194C is done. DDA is done. Extremely exhausting. 10% TDS if the NPS authority payment is more than 2,500. How do you remember? Not too much money is paid into national savings certificates. Moving ahead, impossible to buy. ICJ is done. Kotak mutual fund is left, and 194 dividend is left. Let's do those and let's move ahead. Guys, again, continuing with the income bit. The next time you make more money, you've invested in debentures, you've also put money in a bank. Now, what do you want to put? You put money in mutual funds, and that too in Kotak mutual funds, because the section is 194K. So Kotak mutual funds, of course, you can sell the mutual fund and make capital gain. We're not talking about that. We're talking about income from mutual funds. Mutual funds, guys, also invest in companies, and when they get dividend, they pass it ahead to the investors or to the unit holders. And on this income, the government says, listen, you need to deduct TDS and you need to pay 10% to me. And this is section 194K. Income of mutual funds. Remember, Kotak mutual fund, the TDS is at the rate of 10% if the amount is more than 5,000 rupees. So if the income is more than 5,000, TDS will be at the rate of 10%, payment of credit, whichever is earlier. If no, payment 20%, that remains constant. So this is 194EE, extremely exhausting. And the next one is 194K, that is Kotak mutual fund. And last, guys, something that we all really, really love, investing in the stock market. When you buy shares directly and you sell them, on the capital gain, there is no TDS because you will calculate, etc. But when you buy shares, etc., and the companies pay you dividend, only companies can pay you dividend, guys. And this dividend income earlier was exempt, but now it's suddenly again taxable. So investors earning dividend income, the government says, listen, I also want TDS, and the TDS is at the rate of 10%. And this is a plain section called 194. The TDS rate is at the rate of 10% like all incomes. And here it is only if the amount of dividend is more than 5,000, which is paid through check or in your bank account. But what if for some reason they are paying cash? In case of cash, the limit is not there. Limit disappears. So in case of cash, even if they pay 3,000, there will be TDS. Otherwise, guys, TDS is only when you pay more than 5,000. This is section 194. Here it is. An Indian company paying shareholders in dividend, TDS at the rate of 10% if it's more than 5,000. This threshold will not apply in case of cash dividends. No TDS if the dividend, guys, any dividend, interest, income earned by LIC, GIC, no TDS. That is section 194. Guys, these are all your sections. I'm just going to recap with the shortcut. 194 is dividend. K is Kotak Mutual Funds. Extremely exhausting national savings certificates. Axis Bank, interest on banks, interest, other interest. 193 is interest on debentures. P is pension plus interest of older people, O is online sales. 194 IB is impossible to buy, so you rent. And 194 M, these both are only for small individuals, small HUFs. I is initially you rent. I is immovable property you acquire, because once you rent, you want to acquire it. H is helper. D is death or doctor's fees, insurance commission, gambling, lottery commission, death amount when you get insurance money. I see when you see 194 C is contractor, and 194 J is jealous professionals. B is bets, and BB is bigger bets. 192 is 192 employee salary. This is Aram. This is 194 LA, legally acquired. Someone is compulsory acquired your immovable property. And notes, in these cases, it is on payment basis. In all these cases, it is payment or credit, whichever is earlier. Perfect. So guys, we've completed all the TDS sections. Now, whatever TDS is collected has to be paid by the 7th of the next month. Example, in the month of April, you need to pay by 7th May. In the month of May, you have to pay by 7th June. Except, guys, in the case of March, you can pay by 30th April. What if you pay late? Guys, if you deduct TDS and you don't pay, or if you forget to deduct only, let's take both. If you don't deduct, guys, if you don't deduct, then the government says because you made a mistake, you'll have to pay 1% per annum. Example, if you had to deduct today and you don't deduct it, then you'll have to pay 1% per annum on that amount. So 1%, sorry, not per annum, per month or part thereof, into the amount. Let's say you had to deduct 10,000 into number of months. So let's say you didn't deduct this month, April, but you deducted in June, so 3 months. But if you deduct but you don't pay, that's an even grave offense, because you are going to deduct it and use the government's money. So the rate of interest is 1.5% into that amount into months, but the months will start once your payment due date is done. So for April, you need to pay by 7th May, but if you don't pay by 7th May, from 8th May, that is for the month of May, June, July, the interest will apply till whenever you pay the government. This is basically interest under section 2011A. This could be a question, not very important, guys. I'll show you exam questions now, but mainly it is basically the TDS sections which are important. 196, if you are paying money to the government, no TDS. Unless stated otherwise, payment will be on payment or credit, whichever is earlier. There are some on payment basis. No TDS on GST. Guys, in the COVID year, which was year 2021, not your year is 21-22. So in the COVID year, because people had less money and the government did not want to deduct too much TDS, there was a discount given of 25%, which is now no more there for your year. So don't get confused. All rates are flat rates, no surcharge and cess on TDS. If there is no PAN, TDS will be 20%, and some small individual HUFs are those who do not cross the turnover of 50 lakhs or 1 crore respectively. Tax on equity shares, not important, guys, sweat equity shares, but on tax on sweat equity shares, they've been discussed in salaries. You don't, basically, when you get ESOPs, you don't need to pay tax immediately, you can pay later, but not so important for CA enter. The tax should be deposited by the 7th of the next month, and a statement has to be filed. But if you pay late, there is an interest of 1% of 1.5%. And next, guys, is 194 is TCS sections, etc., which we've already discussed in TCS. So this is the TDS sections. Now, back to back, guys, we are going to go open up examination questions and solve the examination questions back to back in the next 10 minutes, and then your session gets done. Let's do this. The next 10 minutes are only going to be dedicated to questions on this chapter. So let's start with the May 19 paper, guys. I'll tell you exactly where you find TDS. The first sum is a compulsory 14-mark sum. Obviously, that is not the first thing that you will do. You will start with the second sum and you will choose second, third, fourth. You will choose which one you want to do. But in the second one, the B part, or the second one, the A part, there is generally a question on TDS, which is for about 5 to 7 marks. So let's try and do that. Right now, I am in May question paper, May 2019 paper. This is the first question, or question number 2B. Watch out and let's do this. Miss Varsha received a sum of 95,000 on 31st December 2018 towards maturity proceeds of LIC. taken on 1st October 2013, for which the sum assured was 80,000 and the annual premium was 10,000. Guys, this policy has been taken on or after 1st April 2012, and hence the low premium limit is 10%. On 80,000, you could have paid maximum 8,000 premium, but since you paid 10,000, the premiums are high and hence it becomes taxable. Now, when you get the amount, there's a section called section 194DA, death amount, which says that TDS will be at the rate of 5%, but only if the amount is more than 1 lakh. Here the amount is 95,000 and hence no TDS. So you'll quote the section 194DA. You will say that as per section 194DA, TDS at the rate of 5% on receipts from insurance company if the amount is more than 1 lakh. However, since Mrs. Varsha has received only 95,000 and hence no TDS. Let's see the next one. Mr. Deepak transferred a residential house property of Mr. Karan for 45 lakh. Here, guys, 194 IA immovable property acquires, but TDS at the rate of 1% only if the amount is more than 50 lakhs, and hence this will not be subject to TDS. Stamp duty value you will not take, you will take 45, you will see the sale consideration. XYZ Private Limited, it's a company, pays the following amounts to Mr. Narayanan during the year at 2018-19. 22,000 towards fee for professional services. 194J says this is within the limit of 30,000, small personal limit and hence no TDS. 18,000 towards royalty. This is also under 194J. And here, just one second. And here it is not per person, it's per category. Since per category, it's not more than 30,000, no TDS again in this case also. So here also no TDS. This is the third one. Payment of 1,75,000 made by Mr. Weber for purchase of calendar according to specifications of Messrs. ABC Limited. However, no material was supplied. So this is not a works contract. This is a purchase. And hence under 194C, here also no TDS. That's the fourth one. Talent Private Limited pays 12,000 to Mr. Sudha, a director, towards sitting fees, which is not under salaries. As sittings fees under 194J, there is no limit of 30,000 for this. So there will be finally TDS at the rate of 10%. And Lada Limited is engaged for Sham Limited only in the business of operation of call center. The total amount credited by Sham in the ledger is 70,000. The amount is paid through check. So on 70,000, guys, there will be TDS because 194J says TDS at the rate of 2% in case of call center services. Guys, that's your 7 marks. In every sum, you have to quote the section. If TDS applies, then you have to calculate the amount. If TDS does not apply, you have to give the reason, and that's how you have to move ahead. For 6 points, 7 marks. Here is May 2019. Let's go to the next one, that is November 2019. Just opening that up. Here we go, November 2019. Perfect. Again, guys, same place. Question number 2 is where you will find TDS sums. Here it is. This is question number 2. The second part. Here we go. Examine and explain the TDS implications. Mr. Tandon received a sum of 1,75,000 as premature withdrawal from Employees Provident Fund before continuous service of 5 years on account of ill health. I think there is some ill health there. 1 minute. On account of termination of employment due to ill health, as per section 192A, any amount more than 50,000 premature withdrawal should be subject to TDS except if the termination is due to closure or ill health, so no TDS in this case. Next, a sum of 42,000 has been credited as an interest on recurring deposit by a banking company to an account of Mr. Hassan, 63 years. As for a bank, when they pay up to 50,000 rupees for senior citizen, no TDS. So you will quote section 194A for Axis Bank and no TDS in this case also. Miss Call won a lucky draw of 21,000. The lucky draw was organized by Maximus Retail for its customer. On this, section 194B bet 30% reduction of TDS on that amount because it's more than 15,000, more than 10,000, sorry. Finance Bank sanctioned and disbursed a loan of 10 crores to a borrower. The borrower paid a sum of 1 lakh as service fee to Finance Bank Private Limited for processing the loan application. As when you pay interest, processing fees, finance charges, etc. to a bank under 194A, on that there will be no TDS. And Mr. Ashok, who's working in a private company, that means he's a small individual, small HUF, is on a deputation for 3 months from December to Jan, and where he pays a monthly house rent of 52,000 because you're a small individual, small HUF, section 194 IB. Impossible to buy, so you're paying rent of more than 50,000 for 3 months. Then you have to deduct TDS at the rate of 5% for those 3 months, and the last month you can deduct it totally at the rate of 5% on all 3 months together in the last month. So totaling to 1,56,000 into 5% will be deducted in the last one and paid within 30 days. That is the answer. 7 marks again in November 2019 for this kind of a question. As for every question, the TDS section and the details are more than enough. We're looking at November 20 paper, the COVID year. Let's have a look at that one. Here we go, again the same place, but again this time 5 marks. So let's check how we get these 5 marks for TDS. Sanjay, a resident individual not deriving any income from business or profession, basically means small individual, makes payment of 12 lakhs in Jan, 20 lakhs in Feb, and 20 lakhs in March. So 20, 20, 40, and 52 lakhs basically to a contractor. While 194C does not apply because he's a small individual, small HUF, 194M applies to him. And here we go, 1 minute. Yep. So as per 194M, TDS at the rate of 5% will have to be deducted. This is 194M, misuse. ABC Limited makes a payment of 1,50,000 to Ramlal, an individual transporter who owns 6 goods carriages. He does not furnish PAN. Because he does not furnish PAN, otherwise 194C there would be no TDS, but now there would be TDS, and because there is no PAN furnishing, 20% under section 206AA, always anonymous. And Ms. Srimati Sarita paid 5,000 to Srimati Deepa from deposits in National Savings Scheme. In that case, at the rate of 5%, sorry, 10%, since it's more than 2,500, extremely exhausting, section 194EE. That is a section for this third one. That is a November 20 paper, guys. This is the COVID paper. We'll go to the next one now. Let's take the July 21 paper. Sorry, Jan first. Let's take the Jan 21 paper. Here we go. Yes. This is the Jan 21 paper. Again, in question number 2, discuss the TDS and TCS implications. On 1st May 2019, Rajesh made 3 fixed deposits of 9 months each of 3 lakh carrying interest at 3% with Mumbai, Delhi and Chandigarh branch of CBG Bank. So guys, the amount is 3 lakhs into 9% into 9 months. So divide by 12 into 9, which is 20,250, and like that he has 3 deposits, that is 60,750. Because more than 50,000 or 40,000, then there will be TDS under section TDS at the rate of 10% under section 194A, Axis Bank. And their CBS basically means all the banks are together, all the branches are together. That's what CBS means, that it's per bank, not per branch. Next, Mr. Marwa, who's 80 years old, holds 6.5% gold bonds of 2 lakh and 7% gold bonds of 3 lakh. He received yearly interest on these bonds. Guys, this one is section 193, interest on securities, bonds, etc. Again, at the rate of 10%. There's a company which took a loan of 50 lakh from Haridas. It credited interest of 79,000 payable to Mr. Haridas during the previous year 1920. Messrs. AG Private Limited is not liable for tax audit during the year 1819 and 1920. As if you are a company paying interest, then will you be subject to TDS under 194A is the question. 194A does not apply when you are paying to a bank or when you are small individual, small HUF. But this is a company and hence not a small individual, small HUF, and hence there will be TDS at the rate of 10%. And Mr. Prabhakar is due to receive 6 lakh towards maturity proceeds of LIC policy taken on 1st April 2016, for which the sum assured is 5 lakh and the annual premium is 1,40,000. First up, the policy is taken after 1st of April 2012. The limit is 10% of the premium. Here the premium should be maximum 50,000, but they paid 1,40,000. It's high premium, so hence taxable. Now, as per section 194DA, it is taxable only at the rate of 5%. If the amount is more than 1 lakh, yes, you've received 6 lakh. But you have to calculate the net amount, that is 6 lakh minus how many premiums have you paid. You've taken in 2016. So 16, 17, 18, 19, 4 premiums you paid. So 1,40,000 into 4 is 5,60,000. So the net amount is only 40,000 rupees, on which there is TDS at the rate of 5%. This will get you 8 marks, guys, 2 marks per question. Very good TDS section. Going to the next one. This one is now on the July paper. So here we go. This is the July paper. Every year TDS one question is there, so watch out for it. Nowadays it's TDS with TCS mix. Here TDS provisions in the following case. So here we go, guys. Mr. Kale receiving pension from the central government. So he's a small individual, small HUF. He's made a contractual payment of 52 lakh 50. So under 194M, there will be TDS. Yes. Next is Rahul, a wholesale trader whose turnover last year was 5 crores. So he's not a small individual, small HUF. So constructive office go down, there will be TDS at the rate of paid to Akhilesh, so at the rate of 1% because you're paying it to an individual, 194C. And next one, Golu, an individual carrying garment trading business, 95 lakh turnover. That means small individual paying commission for securing a contract for a big business house in November, 1 lakh 20. Nothing because section 194H does not apply commission. He's a small individual, small HUF. And a bank is paying by way of cash withdrawal 1.2 crores. And ABC has filed its return for the past 3 years. So basically more than 1 crore, it's 20 lakhs. On 20 lakhs at the rate of 2% will be the TDS under 194N on payment basis. This is basically what you will get 8 marks for. So basically, guys, every year in question number 2 of your paper, there is TDS. Sometimes it's TDS with TCS, but TDS is mainly the question, and go through all the sections. Remember, most of them are payment or credit, whichever is earlier. Some of them are payment, example government, example bets, bigger bets, etc. And if there is no PAN number, then TDS will be at the rate of 20%, generally MMR in some cases, and 194O, it's 5% because it's a new section. Remember, 194P is also new and 194O is also new. And there is a section called 194Q. I haven't discussed it because I've already discussed it with the TCS section. If you have any doubts, you can always reach out to me. Use the quick book. Use your questions from the module. Wherever you can find questions, RTPs, guys, previous year's questions will give you a better understanding of what is expected in the exam. Reach out to me. I'm with you for whatever doubts you might have. Thank you so much. Watch this again to revise TDS. All the best.